Hi everyone. Today we're going to be talking about comparing rational numbers. I already made a video on comparing integers. Integers are just negative or positive whole numbers. Rational numbers include a little bit more. So rational numbers include your whole numbers like 1 over here or 2 or -5 or -7. But rational numbers also include things like decimals and fractions. I'm not going to go over the real technical definition of it today, but that's going to be our definition for what we're doing today. So all the numbers we're working with are rational numbers here. So just like in our integers video, I would encourage you to plot numbers on a number line anytime you're not sure. When you're working with integers, so just whole numbers, it's usually a little bit more obvious which numbers are greater than or less than. But once you get to rational numbers, so once you're dealing with fractions and decimals like this, it becomes a little bit easier to make mistakes. So that's when I would stop, and even if you just sketch out a rough number line and don't even label everything, but just so that you can see, I think that tends to help a lot. So what we're going to do first is we're going to actually plot these on this number line to just help us with that process. If you think you already are pretty good at this, I would say maybe pause the video, try to order these from least to greatest, and then play the video and see if you're right. So let's start by graphing these. So I'm going to say, okay, let's start with 0. 0 is right here in the middle, and I'm just going to write the number above it, right, to make it stand out. 1 is over here, so I'm going to write 1 up there. -1 and 25 hundredths. So -1, then -25 hundredths. So I see 1 is here, -1 is here. Then I'm going to go down a quarter, because it says -1 and 25 hundredths. So I'm not going to go all the way down to -1.5 or -1.5, but it's going to go right here. And since I'm deciding to do this, -1 and 25 hundredths, that'll help me remember what that is. Okay. Now up here we have 1.5 or 1 and 5/10. That goes up here, 1 and 5/10. Then lastly over here we have -1 and 75 hundredths, or -1 and 3/4 could be another way. So I'm going to go down to -1 again, but then I'm going to go down also -75 hundredths. So we know that this is 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, so it'll end up here. That'll be -1 and 75 hundredths would be right here. Okay. So just like in our comparing integers videos, they are already essentially in order, because we know that the farther to the right we get, the greater they get. They get greater. And then we also know that the farther to the left they get less. And I mentioned in that video that some people like to remember left is less. And I think they like to remember that because it helps them remember whenever you get to a question where it says, why is this number greater, right? Well, we say because when you go to the left on a number line, or the farther left on a number line you will be less than anything that's to the right of you. So that's kind of that reasoning piece that you want to have when people ask. So just to wrap this up, if I'm going to arrange these from least to greatest, I'm going to say, okay, -1 and 75 hundredths is the least, then is -1 and 25 hundredths, then 0, then 1, and 1 and 5/10, so 1.5. I do want to point out that usually down here, when you get to a part like this, that is where most students will make a mistake. They'll either swap the places of these, because they'll think, okay, -1, and then for some reason they end up down right next to -2. It helps to slow down, and it helps to think about, okay, well, -1 and 75 hundredths is almost -2, almost -2, right? It would only have to go over one more quarter. That helps you keep your frame of mind. So I always recommend when it gets to these situations, just slow down and think about it, even if it seems easy, because a lot of this stuff comes naturally to students, but you still want to slow down. All right? So that's all for today's video. I hope it helped. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below.